What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today I'm doing a deck profile on Lucario Melmetal-GX, the deck that I used to win the Pokémon Store Streamer Showdown Invitational this past weekend. If you either missed the live games or you just want to watch them back because they were some pretty exciting matches, I have all of the games from my perspective uploaded to my channel and under the playlist titled Streamer Showdown. Before we take a look at this list, shout out to PokémonStore.com, or you can use code Celio for 5% off on a wide selection of PTCGO codes. So I used Lucario Zacian V for this tournament, 3 rounds of Swiss and then a top 4 cut. 8 of us were invited to the tournament, 7 content creators of Pokémon Store, and then also one special guest, Alex Garcia, who I actually played in round 2 of the tournament. So I think this is also a good deck to look at and a good deck profile for me to make, since we have the Limitless TCG Invitational coming up and the 4 qualifiers for the Invitational. If you haven't already heard about the Limitless TCG Invitational and the qualifiers, definitely go over to limitlesstcg.com to check that out. It's a huge event. I'll be playing in it, and I'm also one of the content creators involved, so when you do enter for the qualifiers, make sure you vote for me as your content creator of choice. So why did I play Lucario Melmetal-GX for the Pokémon Store Streamer Showdown? Well, basically I thought that the other players in the event would be playing ADP Zacian and Psychic Malamar, and I wanted to take good matchups to those, so I picked Lucario Melmetal-GX. Another reason is that Lucario Melmetal-GX is one of my favorite decks, if not my favorite deck out of Sword and Shield. I prefer it much. I really prefer it compared to Zacian ADP, because Zacian ADP, while it is the best deck in format, it's very straightforward and it doesn't leave a lot of room for technical play or any kind of strategy that's against the norm. Whereas Lucario Melmetal-GX, as you'll see in the games if you watch them or if you already have watched them, I take a lot of different lines of strategy based on the matchup, based on my hand, based on how my opponent sets up. It's not just go Altered Creation and swing 3 times. You can actually do other things with the deck, which is why I like it. It was my favorite deck that I tested prior to Sword and Shield actually coming out. So we're starting off with the base of 4 Jirachis for the consistency of Stellar Wish, of course. And then we have 3 Zacian V, which is the attacker, and also consistency with Intrepid Sword, and also energy acceleration because the card is bonkers. And then we have a Dedenne-GX also for draw power, discard draw 6. And Primate Wisdom helps you draw an extra card. Sometimes you can dig 1 card deeper, which is very nice. And it also synergizes well with Intrepid Sword. You can put a Metal Energy on top to guarantee accelerating at least 1 Metal Energy with Intrepid Sword. I also play 1 Absol to disrupt my opponent's Jirachis with Escape Boards. This can really help if I'm getting a slow start and I want more time to set up, or just on turn 1, it can even sometimes disrupt their Altered Creation on turn 2 if I'm not able to get energy off of their board. Absol's a nice backup option that will sometimes work. So then we have the Lucario and Melmetal Tag Team GX. This is usually where you would find the ADP tag team in a Zacian deck. But here we have Lucario and Melmetal-GX. I used all 3 of the attacks multiple times throughout the tournament. And I should also note that its bulky 260 HP is a good attribute. Its type being metal is important, and its resistance being to psychic also mattered somewhat throughout the tournament. So we'll focus on the GX attack first, since this is the GX attack replacing Altered Creation GX, so it must be pretty good. Full Metal Wall GX for a colorless energy. For the rest of the game, your metal Pokemon take 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks. If this Pokemon has at least 1 extra energy attached to it, discard all energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So this is probably best exemplified by you watching the matches back, like I mentioned, especially versus the ADP Zacian matchups. But basically, Full Metal Wall GX makes Lucario, Melmetal, and Zacian both take 30 less damage. I'm playing Metal Frying Pan, so they take 60 less damage after that. Versus Malamar, the Lucario Melmetal will take 80 less damage from their psychic attackers because of resistance. And we're also setting them back possibly multiple turns depending on the deck and depending on the turn I use it. With the energy discarding effect of Full Metal Wall GX. So this can guarantee that we stop them from using Altered Creation turn 2 if their ADP is active, or we gust it to the active, and then we Full Metal Wall it. Even if we get it off late, we can Full Metal Wall their Zacian, and then their Zacian can't one-shot ours or our Lucario Melmetal, which makes it very awkward. So this is a deck focused on beating the mirror, but it also takes a good matchup to Malamar usually. So my matches through the tournament, round 1 I played against Obstagoon, which Obstagoon should be a pretty poor matchup. Round 1 I got fairly lucky on Crushing Hammer flips. And I would also say that I played fairly well. My opponent was not going with the lone Obstagoon strategy, and I imagine that was because he was afraid if he went down to a low prize count, I would stamp him, then Full Metal Wall, then on the following turn knock his lone Obstagoon out, which was very likely. That was my plan until I noticed he was benching more Pokemon. And the games went very long. They were very grindy. The first round, I believe, I won 2-0 versus Obstagoon. Round 2, I played against Alex Garcia, piloting Psychic Malamar, which I was feeling pretty confident about, but I actually ended up losing 0-2, and it was my only match loss of the tournament. You can watch that back as well. The games were very close. Round 3, I played against Tablemon, piloting ADP Zacian, and this was possibly the most exciting and back-and-forth matchup of the tournament. I ended up winning 2-1 to his ADP Zacian, and I made some pretty I had some pretty good comeback games with the Lucametal. It looked like it was all over for me, and then I came back with some nice Full Metal Wall GX plays and just swept his board from there when he wasn't able to one-shot me. Top 4, I played against the Obstagoon player again. Rios Arc is his name on YouTube. And this time he did take a game versus me, so I won 2-1. But still very grindy games where I had to remove his energy, then attack. Excuse me. Gust around his dolls, gust around his Obstagoon. That was the only time I wish I had an Oranguru Resource Management versus Obstagoon to make it a little bit of a safer game. I probably also could have used a Resource Management versus Alex, because I actually decked out one of the games versus Malamar, but that was possibly my own fault for being greedy. And then in top 2, I played against Joe from Omnipoke, also against ADP Zacian, so it was my second game versus ADP Zacian of the day. Game 1 was fairly close. And then game 2, I actually didn't have to disrupt his Altered Creation early because he whiffed an energy attachment. So that game was just super easy. I guess they whiff an energy attachment about like 1 out of 10, maybe 1 out of 15 times, or they just get a really bad start that often. But if they can naturally not attach an energy, or they naturally just can't retreat or switch out, then the game just becomes so much easier because I don't have to do it to them. So yeah, I ended up winning the tournament. Round 1 2-0, round 2 0-2, round 3 2-1, top 4 2-1, and then the finals was a 2-0. We'll also look at the trainers. I'm playing 3 Crushing Hammer, which are very important that I mentioned. I chose to play 5 Gusts, so that the 2 Gusts in the custom catchers combined, and then the 1 Great Catcher. I don't think you can afford to be flippy with Pokemon catchers in this deck, because it's not an aggressive deck. You want to just confirm your gusting twice, and you're fine with that. You could put an Oranguru Resource Management in, like I mentioned. And then also the 3 Acro Bike. This was added in last week in preparation when I started preparing this list again. I don't think I had Acro Bikes on my original Lucametal Zacian list, but I put those in because I saw Philip Schultz post a Lucametal Zacian list, and he had Acro Bikes, so I figured I would try it. Only 1 Chaotic Swell. I think I would like a second Stadium, possibly a Viridian Forest. Possibly a Lysander Labs, because if any of my ADP Zacian opponents were playing Metal Core Barrier or their own Frying Pans, that could have been bad, but I think they were more aggressive lists, and Pablo was also playing his own Hammers and Yell Grunts to try to beat the mirror. But Metal Core Barrier would definitely be scary, as well as Frying Pan be scary in the mirror. Mallow Lana, you pretty much have to play this in this list, in this deck, because you're trying to tank attacks, you're trying to heal and survive, outlast your opponent, so that's very, very important. And then I think the draw supporter lineup of 4 research and 3 Marnie is perfect. I really like that. And I added in the 11th metal energy, which I definitely think is crucial to how I performed in the grindy games. I don't think I could have made it through those games without the 11th energy. But I suppose if you're playing an Oranguru resource management, you could replace the 11th energy, maybe with a Viridian Forest would be fine. So going forward into the Limitless TCG Invitational, or the qualifiers for it, qualifier number 1, which will be this upcoming weekend, I think Zacian Lucametal is a solid pick. The rounds are best of 1, 25 minutes. So I do think a lot of people will play ADP Zacian, which I consider a favorable matchup. But it is best of 1, and these games can be grindy. But I really think if you play like to pace, and so does your opponent, 1 game versus most attacking decks shouldn't last more than 25 minutes. Of course, versus Obstagoon in top 4, we had no timer. We were playing an untimed top 4, so we could take as long as we want to think. And I definitely think that influenced the match going to, I believe it was an hour and 20 minutes for 3 games. Since it was untimed, of course. But I think this deck is fine for the Limitless TCG Invitational. I'll be making some speculation on what I think the meta will be over the next couple days, and I will have a video out Friday afternoon. I think I'm going to schedule for 2 p.m. Eastern time, so everybody has a little over 12 hours between that video coming out and round 1 starting. For the Limitless TCG Invitational, of course. So I really don't know if I'll be playing this deck for qualifier number 1. I think it might be my safe pick because I feel very knowledgeable with it and I feel comfortable with it, and it's a deck that I have a lot of fun playing. And I know it can succeed, of course, but I'll have to think about what others are going to be playing for that tournament. And like I said, I'll be doing a little bit of a meta forecast for Friday to let you guys know exactly what I think about it. Other than that, like I said, yeah, this is my list that I used to win the Streamer Showdown. I'll put the PTCG export in the description below. On my channel, you can find the playlist Streamer Showdown if you want to watch the other matches. In other news, I've started a patreon.com where I am writing my premium articles. I will probably make a video specifically for that. Right now, I have my tiers closed if you are watching this on March 31st, but all of the patron tiers are reopening on April 1st. There was just a small billing issue, and I didn't want anybody to get charged upon signing up and then again tomorrow for April 1st, or depending on when you're watching this, April 1st may have already passed. But yeah, Patreon description link in the description below. I'm doing premium articles 2 to 4 a month, and I'm also doing coaching for the highest tier for Patreon. And all of the tier 2 and up Patreons also get access to my Metascore generator, my matchup spreadsheet, and also unlimited support helping you with all of that and whatnot. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. Thank you for everyone who was watching me live and has commented on the matches. It was a really fun morning and afternoon of Pokemon, and I was super, super hyped to win the whole tournament. Shout out to Potown Store again for holding that, and of course being my sponsor. They're an amazing sponsor, and I really appreciate everything that they're doing for me. And yeah, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content and want to see more like it. Also, leave it in the description below if there's content that you want to see me make and I'm not currently making. I'd love to hear your opinions. And I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.